The NFL playoffs have now officially started, and it is the most exciting weeks in the year of professional football. Wildcard weekend, 6 great NFL games, well, at least hopefully great. So in today's video, I will do what everybody else has done and make my official predictions. I have some pretty shocking upsets and then some pretty chalk picks. So to start things off, I'll start off with my craziest pick of the week. And that is the Green Bay Packers over the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I know, pretty crazy. In fact, the Cowboys are 7.5-point favorites in this game, which is the second highest favorite of the week. They also play at home, where they are much better than on the road. And of course, you know that every team is, but the Cowboys more so. So I've been watching a decent amount of the Cowboys the past 4 or 5 weeks, and honestly, I just haven't been that impressed by the team. So let's do past 6 weeks. They beat the Seahawks, but I don't think they should have. They did blow out the Eagles, but the Eagles have been terrible the past month. Then they got blown out by the Bills. They lost to Miami, and Miami hasn't beaten any other good team. So, yes, it is Miami, but this is also the best win Miami has. Then they stole a victory from the Lions because of the referees. And against Washington, if you watched the first half, honestly, Washington should have been up that first half. So, just not that impressed by them over the past month. And for the Packers, you think of them, honestly, after the first half of the season, you probably had a certain team drilled into your head. But, over the past 8 weeks, the Packers have gone 6-2, involving wins over the Lions, Kansas City, and Minnesota. So, all solid wins. The Packers' offense and defense has gotten much better. And Jordan Love has proven to actually be a good quarterback. I mean, he would have set the Bears' all-time leading passing record this year in his first real year. So mixing together the Cowboys, in my opinion, struggling the past month, the Packers doing good over the past month, and a little bit of wild card madness. And with all that, I think the Packers will beat the Cowboys. Now, this is probably my most extreme pick, and it is one of the picks I would say I'm the least confident in, but I believe in it enough to make it one of my picks. Then up next is an excellent game, probably the game of the weekend. It is the Rams versus the Lions. Stafford versus his old team, Goff versus his old team. 2 very equal teams. And I struggled to come up with the answer for this one because the Lions have such an explosive offense and have looked so good for the entire year. I mean, they're 2nd in passing yards and they're 5th in rushing yards and 5th in points. Their offense is great. And they've had a really good year. On the other side of the ball, the Rams have kind of just been like number 10-ish on offense and defense. So a bit more of a complete team, less good on offense. Matthew Stafford has had a great year with Puka and Cooper Kupp. It's a tough one, and I'd feel bad for the Lions if they lose, but I have to make my official pick of the Rams barely beating the Lions. It will be heartbreaking, but I just think that the Rams defense is so much better than the Lions defense when the offense are fairly similar. So the defense will edge them out. Then the last NFC game, the toilet bowl of the playoffs, the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So these currently are the 2 worst teams in the playoffs. The Buccaneers, of course, no one thinks should even be in the playoffs because they've been so bad all year. Yes, Baker Mayfield has had one of his best years, but he's still not good, and just the overall team is not impressive. On the other side of the ball, the Eagles started off amazing, as we all know, and then have crumbled over the past 6 weeks to be potentially the worst team in the NFL. But it all reset. It's 0-0 now. It's the playoffs. And the Eagles are a far more talented roster than the Buccaneers. So, for this game, it is the question of, do we believe in the momentum of the past month or so, or do we believe in the more talented roster with a better quarterback, better wide receivers, better playmakers? And for this one, I think it will be very close, but I have the Eagles barely winning. Now, I am an Eagles fan, so that could be some bias showing up, and just hope, because it would be quite a disappointing year to not even make it past the Buccaneers. But I would not blame anybody for picking the Buccaneers in this matchup, because if you've seen the Eagles since they went 10-1, they barely look like an NFL team. However, as I've been saying, Jalen Hurts, he can turn it around. Maybe the defensive line can actually get some pressure, and they can return to one of the best teams in the NFL as they were just 2 months ago. Now to the AFC side of the bracket, I'll start off with my most confident pick of the week, and that is the Buffalo Bills versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bills have been awesome the past 6 weeks or so. They've been potentially the best team in the NFL those past 6 weeks, or, almost top 2 or 3. The Steelers, I don't know how they're here. So, you play at Buffalo, one of the hottest teams in the league, versus a solid Steelers who just squeaked in. And to make things worse, TJ Watt's not playing. The Steelers are terrible without TJ Watt. So, I just don't see how they can stick in this. Yes, Mason Rudolph has been much improved and could potentially keep the offense in it a bit, but I just don't see them being within 15 or 14, I guess, being within 14 points of the Bills this game. Then up next, the Browns versus the Texans, the Deshaun Watson Bowl, in which Deshaun Watson does not play in. Who will win this one? And honestly, I have a decent amount of love for each team. I think everybody does. I mean, the Browns with Joe Flacco is super lovable, and then the Texans with the new hot quarterback CJ Stroud, also pretty lovable. And I think it will be a pretty close game. I do have the Browns beating the Texans because the Texans have been a little wishy-washy to me. They've won a lot of close games, and they've also lost a handful over the past few months that I don't think they should have lost. For example, against the Jets. I know that was extreme circumstances, but still, it's the Jets. So, I think the Browns defense, the best defense in the NFL, will manage to make enough turnovers maybe, or just stop the Texans offense, and Joe Flacco will make enough big plays for the Browns to win. And then the final game of the playoffs, or of the Wildcard weekend, the Dolphins versus the Chiefs. Two teams where I think most people would reasonably say could win the Super Bowl. So, one team has to win. And the Dolphins, well, they have had brighter moments this year. They're like a shooting star. They're really bright, and then then they're gone. The Chiefs are like a dull light that's always been there. So the Dolphins have had excellent offense especially when they're at home, and especially when they're playing against weaker opponents. They have struggled against good teams, and they've struggled on the road. The Chiefs, their offense has struggled. It's been average-ish. But their defense has been really good. I think that playing at home in the cold, because it's supposed to be pretty extreme weather conditions, so playing at home in the cold with a good defense will be enough to slow down the Dolphins' offense, and Patrick Mahomes will do what Patrick Mahomes does in the playoffs, and the Chiefs will find a way to win. And honestly, I think there's a chance it's not even that close. So, in recap, I have the Browns, Chiefs, Bills, Packers, Rams, and Eagles making it through this round of the playoffs. What are your thoughts? Leave your comments down below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you later. If you made it this far into the video, please consider subscribing to my channel for more NFL content.